Hello, once again, Who Dey Nation. I'm Matt Donnelly, and now that the NFL calendar is flipped to 2024, we too must turn our attention to the state of the Bengals heading into free agency. Now, free agency, it doesn't officially kick off until 4 p.m. Eastern on March 13th. But the legal tampering period, it does begin a couple days earlier there on the 11th. But that's not stopping us from taking a look at what the Bengals should do or what they could do once the bidding process begins. First things first, Cincinnati, they took care of the in-house business, locking up Pro Bowl wide receiver T. Higgins with that franchise tag worth up to $21.8 million. Even after tagging Higgins, the Bengals, they are left with roughly $50 million in available cap space for 2024, which is the ninth most. And it looks as though Higgins will be here for at least the start of the season. That's not going to stop teams from picking up the phone and giving the Bengals a call and seeing if they could still get T. Higgins, possibly for a second-round selection, but most likely for a first. For a wide receiver entering his fifth season, already hauling in 257 receptions for 3,684 yards and 24 touchdowns in 53 career starts. At the end of the day, the Bengals, they do have some options available to them. They could either trade Higgins now and get some draft compensation in return, or they can do what they did with Jesse Bates and take him, as they are a Super Bowl contender right now, and risk letting him walk at the end of the season. It is an interesting note that Higgins and Bates, they do share the same agent. The Bates route, it makes a lot of sense for the Bengals, as they do need to pay Jamar Chase down the road. Before I dive into free agency, I want to touch on the draft, as the Bengals are likely to add some cheap options here to reduce that future cap number. That is why Higgins could be one of those one-and-done type deals here. If the Bengals grab a wide receiver early on, that's going to be a strong indication of their plans. Currently, the Bengals, they have all their draft selections heading into 2024, and they're not historically known as a team that is going to get involved in trade talks, meaning what you see is what you're going to get. Between the draft and free agency, the Bengals must address the tackle positions, both on offense and defense, as well as locking in that future tight end. We can't keep going down that C.J. Uzomah, Hayden Hurst, Irv Smith Jr. rent a tight end road. It doesn't look good. It hasn't worked good last season. And hey, this tight end class, it's not great. Dalton Schultz, he's not leaving Houston, and you don't want to be stuck holding the bag when it comes to Hunter Henry, Gerald Everett, or Noah Fant. I would love if somehow Brock Bowers, he fell in the draft. I don't see that happening, but one man, he can dream. Of note, here are some players that could be of interest to the Bengals at pick number 18. Quinton Mitchell, Nate Wiggins, and Cooper DeJean, they're at the cornerback position. Defensive tackles, Jazon Newton and Byron Murphy, as well as offensive tackles, J.C. Latham and Amarius Mims, they could be available. So there's some options that the Bengals need to look at their big board. For now, Higgins, he's staying, I think. But some key players who could be playing elsewhere next season include defensive tackle DJ Reader, offensive tackle Jonah Williams, wide receiver Tyler Boyd, and Jake Browning, who has that exclusive rights tag. DJ Reader is unlikely to return. Reader has been great for the Bengals. However, injuries are a concern, and this is a what have you done for me business here. And at 30, I wouldn't expect the Bengals to offer Reader that third contract. Irv Smith Jr., thanks for nothing. 18 receptions in 12 games. That is not what I would call a healthy return of your investment that the Bengals had hoped for when they signed him last season. Jonah Williams is a player that I want to keep, but other teams are going to be willing to offer the right tackle more than the Bengals are probably likely to pay. So Williams, he's likely to be anchoring an offensive line elsewhere come 2024. Chidozie, hey, listen, after that 2022 ACL tear, Awuzie, he hasn't been able to regain that 2021 lockdown corner status. And with some great options available in the draft, the Bengals are likely to be moving on. Tyler Boyd is one of those wide receivers that you want to see have success, whether it's with the Bengals or elsewhere. He's going to get that opportunity next season because of the money invested into the wide receiver room here on this Bengals team. 8 seasons. Hey, 8 seasons he's been here. 513 catches, 6,000 yards, and he has stepped in admirably whenever Higgins or Chase has gone down. Cincinnati, they're going to draft a wide receiver. The question is it going to be a slot guy or someone who could be Higgins' future replacement? Now, full disclosure, I do love myself some Charlie Jones. The Bengals also have 14 other free agents that they could move on from, including Travion Williams, Joe Bashie, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Cody Ford, and Drew Sample. With all these players potentially leaving town, which free agents make sense for the Bengals to bring in? How about my number one guy, Justin Madubuike? Yes, that's right, I'm talking about him topping my list. Moving on from Reader, it means you need to fill a void, and there's no better feeling than if you can fill that void by creating a void within a division rival. Cincinnati, they struggle at times. They're stopping the run, allowing 6 yards per carry, and Madubuike, he can be a difference maker up front. His speed and quickness not only helped him to a career-high 13 sacks last season, but also helped him provide 56 tackles for that defensive front for the Ravens just a year ago. Adding him to Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard, that would give the Bengals a dangerous pass rush. Now, a nice consolation prize, should you not be able to add the former Ravens defensive tackle, would be to acquire the services of Leonard Williams, who is a great fit for this Bengals team and is coming off a 62 tackle, 5.5 sack season himself. Priority 2 would be addressing that right tackle position if the Bengals do not feel that Jackson Carman is ready yet, or corner, depending on which way they're leaning come the draft with that 18th overall selection. Jonah Williams, he's the top tackle there in free agency. Others include Andreas Peat and Trenton Brown. Both are who going to get those big-time contracts, as well as George Fant and Jermaine Illuminor, which neither is much of an upgrade on Carman. Orlando Brown Jr., he anchors Burrow's blindside, and if the Bengals feel that J.C. Latham or Mims can play right, then those options become more money-saving type moves for the Bengals when they look at corners, whether there's free agency there with Kendall Fuller or Sean Murphy-Bunting. Now, what they do in free agency is going to affect on how their draft board shakes out, especially in that first round. One name worth mentioning here, and a name that I've heard kind of attached to the Bengals, is former Patriots offensive tackle Michael Onwenu, whose versatility would be an asset. Onwenu, he played both right tackle and right guard last season, and he's also played some snaps back in 2020 and 2021 at left guard. Free agency is going to tell us a lot about what we can expect from this Bengals team in 2024, and the 2024 draft is going to tell us a lot what we can expect about this team moving forward. Will the Bengals draft a T. Higgins replacement? Will they even look at a replacement for Joe Mixon and add a running back alongside Chase Brown? Both fantasy stars, they may not be in the plans for the Bengals beyond 2024, and we should find out sooner rather than later, as this offseason could be quite telling.